Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is your host, Ryan Embree. Thank you for listening or watching wherever you're joining us from, hopefully watching in our brand new Sweet Spot podcast here in Maitland, Florida. Very excited to bring you another great episode, a very popular episode with a lot of hoteliers wanting to know some of the top 5 sentiments of this last year. So it's one of my personal favorite episodes. And a personal favorite guest, Jackie Avery, our Director of Product Respond and Resolve, which is our review response solution, award-winning review response solution here at Travel Media Group. Jackie, thank you so much for joining me back on The Sweet Spot.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. It's so great to be here. I look forward to this every year. I'm so passionate about this and just spending the time reflecting on the past 12 months and what really resonated with travelers.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of the new studio?
Oh, I love it. It looks so good. It's so comfortable here. I am so happy to be back.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you back. Let's get into it. Let's start talking some numbers. If you've heard this before, this is kind of an annual tradition that we do at the end of the year, but we look at all of the guest sentiment that travelers left. For those that might, again, this might be their first time listening to this style of episode, give us a quick definition of guest sentiment and reviews and maybe some numbers that go along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's your first time here, you just want to refresh, thanks for listening. We love that you're taking this time to really, dig in and learn some of this stuff and kind of, again, reflect on what travelers care about. So guest sentiment, these are things being mentioned in reviews, right? So as Ryan mentioned, I'm overseeing the review response team here at Travel Media Group, and my team, to kind of put it into perspective number-wise, during our slower months, we're processing and looking at 25,000 reviews-ish. During peak travel season, that number jumps up to mid to high 30s. So as we're going through this and kind of sharing reflections and really, deep diving, the information that we're going over today is coming from right around 41 million sentiment tags.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible. You think about that, 25,000 per month to about high 30s, but 41 million in sentiment tags. So not only are guests leaving the reviews at a record pace, but they're also talking about so much about the guest experience. And I think that's really important when we talk about this type of episode, because there's so many elements to a guest stay, things that can go right, things that can obviously go wrong that we hear about in these reviews and see in these reviews. And today we're going to review the top 5 sentiments. Let's go ahead and start at number 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump in real quick, I want to say, because you said There might be some people listening this year who weren't here last year. I know that a lot of times, negative reviews gets a lot of talk time. It gets a lot of focus, right? You may have your team meetings, you may be going over data, and, you're kind of focusing on the negatives. Again, this year, similar to last year, we saw the trend that more often than not, travelers were leaving positive remarks and there were positive sentiment tags. So going through this, I am going to try to point out the times where there were higher neutral or negative tags, just to kind of pinpoint, like, hey, where's the discrepancy there? But kind of speaking with that, I would love to kind of jump in. So number 5, our 5th most common sentiment tag this year was facility amenities, showing up over 2.8 million times. So this tag can often be seen alongside things like price, food, and odor. And while those 3, they're not in the top 5, I mention them because those 3 specifically, so again, price, food, and odor, they have a higher neutral negative combined, number than the sum. That sum is higher than the positive tag.
Sure. And, one of the things we hear, price, right? Big industry news, not just in hospitality, but overall, is inflation, right? The price of things and, what a room might cost this year in comparison to maybe back in 2020 could be significantly different. So if the guest comes in with those different expectations because they paid this price and they're not seeing it, that might be something there where that neutral or negative sentiment comes into play. Same with odor. It's typically something that when we talk about odor and you bring that up in a review, unless you have a really nice fragrance in the lobby, perhaps that new car smell or something like that, it's usually not going to be met with positive sentiment surrounding it. So let's go ahead and move on to 4.
Yeah, so 4th, pretty fitting, kind of with what we're talking about, is going to be cleanliness. So that came up over 3 million times. And this is, often mentioned alongside of beds or bathrooms. And so while all 3 of those tags were primarily positive, they do have a high neutral second place. So when you consider that, overall the experience was a positive one. Many travelers, still note this kind of feeling where, okay, it could have been a little better, or they have these hint of almost dissatisfaction. So I think that's important to note, because you want to really dig in and find out, like, where am I on the cusp of losing this positive feeling for my guests?
Sure.
Or where am I just like, okay, I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yeah. Cleanliness, something that's been obviously I don't think we're ever going to do a top 5 sentiment episode without mentioning cleanliness. It's just such a priority in the guest experience. And one of the first things you're going to notice when you open that door for the first time, the first thing you do, and we talked about on this episode, it's not even the cleanliness sometimes of the room. I think when people think about cleanliness, they go directly to, well, it's not a clean room, or it's an unclean room. Whereas they might have seen trash in the hallways, right? Food service that was left out in the hallways, dirty elevators, your lobby. So there's so many things that go into that sentiment tag of cleanliness. It's important not to just look through the silo of just saying, hey, this is just a room issue. It could be an overall cleanliness issue.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to number 3.
Yeah. So looking at number 3, in third place, we have location. So this can often be mentioned alongside noise, parking, and safety. It's important to note, because I think often people write this off like, oh, it's something I can't change.
Right.
But I really challenge everyone to change their perception on that, to really think, was there anything that I could have done more proactively, or anything that my team could have done if a concern was brought to their attention? So, for example, noise. Noise came up over 890,000 times.
Wow.
Around 400,000 times, that sentiment was negative. So was there information that could have been provided, or is there a way that the team could have been empowered to more properly address a concern, if it was something that did come up that couldn't be avoided? And then I would say, really thinking about that, if nope, there was nothing that could have been done, this is what happened, I would then reflect on, okay, well, did that guest, get a very genuine response and, kind of communication from your team?
Yeah, location is always going to be in play, right? It's very much like cleanliness. If you're 30 miles away from where you want or need to be, you're going to be at a disadvantage from a hotel that might just be a few steps away from that. But in saying that, the onus is on the hotel to really paint a picture of location, of where they are. We've had reviews that we've responded to where someone has presented themselves as near the airport. And near the airport could be 30 minutes away to one person. It could mean I only want to be 5 minutes away from the airport. So it's really important, like you said, Jackie, just to, I would say, try to look through a traveler's perspective, maybe even someone that you don't know, and send them, whether it be your social media, whether it be your reputation, and say, without looking at my location on a map, tell me what you can gather from these data points, because this is what the prospective traveler is seeing. And if they can paint a pretty accurate picture of, well, it sounds and looks like you're near a bunch of restaurants, it sounds and looks like you're near this or that, or these attractions in the area, then you're hitting it spot on with location. And sometimes, I know we've mentioned a couple negative things about location, but positively too, right? Everyone has some probably great restaurants that, I've been a front desk agent before, and that business traveler or family goes, I just want a good place to eat. I want to eat like a local. What do you recommend? So being able to make sure, because some of these mentions are really positive and saying that it's great, it's near great shopping, great attractions, dining, use this to your advantage. So location, such a great tag. Moving into the top 2 now.
Yeah, so our second most popular tag in 2024 was staff, with over 4 million mentions and over 3 million of those being positive.
That's
what
great.
a testament it is to just the impact that team members have on a traveler's experience.
Yeah.
Almost every single tag can somehow be related to staff. So if you think about it, right, there's a server at breakfast who really just brings joy in the morning. Or unfortunately, there's a plumbing concern, but there's a team member who went above and beyond to make sure that the rest of the stay was wonderful. Or you were staying somewhere to celebrate something special, and instead of it being a one-off, that now, a special event has become your tradition. So team members really just can, be connected to so many other tags. So I'd love to see when it's positive. I love reading when travelers are expressing joy about things that they're experiencing on site.
I mean, that is absolutely incredible to think that number two, the number two most talked about thing on online reviews is your staff, right? And it's something that, when we're talking about prospective travelers, it's something that you can see shine through your reviews, but you don't know who works there, right? You don't know the individuals that work there. You can know everything you can about the location. You can know everything about the price. You can know a lot of these different factors, but one thing you don't know is about the staff, but yet it's the number two most talked about subject. And in a time where a lot of hoteliers out there are still struggling and have this staffing shortage, it's a testament to what you said, that the majority of this is really positive sentiment. And that's great. I mean, that always should be the case in hospitality, where it is hotels hosting people serving people is what we say, right? So great to hear, great to see. I think this is also a great reminder for the hotels listening to this episode that I love the fact that this year, this format, we've changed a little bit up and talked about, the negative and positive, sometimes those swings there, because I think it is, if you are seeing that maybe you're more of a 50-50 split on your staff and your personal reviews, there's a gap there, right? So it is a great time to reflect this time of year and say, all right, what do we want to focus in on? What are we maybe falling short of in the guest expectations or guest experience at our hotel? So here it is. The audience has been waiting. We've been building it up, Jackie. What is the number one top sentiment of 2024?
Yeah, it can't be beat. Everybody is talking about it. With close to 7.5 million mentions, we have accommodations. So right around 2.8 million of those were neutral and negative tags, meaning over 4 million were positive. People felt comfortable, they liked their space, and they had a lot to say. Beds is mentioned over 1.6 million times, room amenities 2.5. Obviously, it's not all good. Pests came up over 200,000 times, and furniture had a significantly more neutral and negative tag than positive. But it's really interesting to see because, you don't need to guess. They're telling you exactly what they like and what they don't like about your specific property.
Yeah, well, and that is the product that essentially we are selling to our customers, right? It is the room. So you can learn a lot from that. There's a lot of aspects that go into it, cleanliness being one of them, one of the other tags that we talked about. But at the end of the day, this is where we're hosting our guests. This is where they're sleeping. So I don't think it's any surprise that accommodations and rooms is the number one sentiment tag. I always love looking at this. I always love, really dissecting the data during this episode. Obviously, you and your team respond to a lot of reviews. I asked you off air how many reviews we're up to at this point.
Yeah, we're just a little over 1.9 million. So it's exciting stuff going on here.
And hopefully 2 million will hit some point in 2025.
Yeah.
A fantastic milestone we're all looking forward to. But, with that much experience, when you see some of these tags, whether positive, neutral, and negative, I think we're always getting questions from hoteliers of how can I be the best review response writer out there? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I guess to kind of pre-answer that question,
Sure.
First thing I would say is of course, if in the moment, if something has gone right or something has gone wrong, empower your team members to properly handle situations. Have training on site. Use the information that you've learned when you've reflected on the past year and really, go through that with your team. But let's say you didn't know. Let's say they didn't stop by the front desk, they had an early morning checkout, or, your team did everything they could.
Mobile checked out.
Exactly.
Walked right by.
Yeah, you might not know. So, let's say, they left a review. That guest deserves a genuine response. You have to be open to feedback. You have to really hear what they're saying, and they deserve a real reply. They don't need a template where, you don't care at all. It seems like you don't care. You can make things right by hearing them, by being empathetic, by truly, listening and responding to them in a real way.
Yeah. Well, authenticity is a big word that we use around here, and having an authentic, empathetic, and genuine response to feedback. We can tell as travelers, as consumers, when something is genuine, when something is empathetic and authentic. And if you can get that feeling and that sentiment in the traveler that left that feedback feeling that way, that's what you can do, And going back to your empowerment, your team empowerment point there, I just want to talk about how many times we've seen in reviews the empowerment or the what your staff has done to try to improve a situation if it's negative, right? That, I was having this issue and then it was solved by Jackie, right? And that is such a cool testament to see online, because that shows service in action, right? Your customer service is not just implied. It's not a 5-star review, but it's actually shown that there was an issue, there was resolution, and that's shown online. You can't ask for a better story there. So empowering your team to make those changes, however that may be at your hotel, however it operates. Sometimes that can show in your reviews, and we've noticed that before.
Yeah, absolutely. And right, that guest, they left your property and they took the time to highlight the team member who made it right, or to highlight the policy that you had in place that did improve their stay. They did not have to do that, but they did. They didn't just share the negative that went wrong. Yep. They then told the whole story, and, you should then take the time to thank them for that time. Show how much you appreciate, their flexibility, their willingness to, be open to the stay, turning around and ending up positively. You want to actually hear what they're saying and give them that time because they gave it to you.
Great point. That's a great point. We could probably do a whole episode on responding to reviews. I know we've done tons of webinars, master classes, boot camps. They're all over our TMG YouTube channel. If you are interested in hearing more of this and some of the tips that Jackie and her team of professional writers here at Travel Media Group, takes such great care of our hotel partners. So thank you for spending a little time with us. Judging by these numbers, it is not slowing down, and you are very, very busy over there in the Respond and Resolve department. So thank you for taking some time and sitting down with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a great time.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk to you next time on The Sweet Spot. Thank you for listening.